The Olympics are on, and this is one of the most exciting times of every other year when you're able to cheer on your country, see the best athletes in the world compete, and see if your country can win gold. Now, I always find it's easiest when there's a horse in the race. I have a lot of people right now asking me, why is strongman not in the Olympics? And a lot of that answer is because of history. There's not history to strongman like most other sports in the Olympics. There's not a really good, solid, unified governing body. We just have a few big competitions a year, a couple of really good promoters, and people doing well for the sport, but it doesn't fill a lot of the criteria for the Olympics. But there's an exciting avenue where strongman will be in a very high-level Olympic-style event. I'll talk about that in a sec, but first, we have to talk about Olympics and doping, because this is partially why strongman isn't involved. I'm very open that strongman is not a tested sport, up to you whether you choose to do something or not. But it brings me to, are the Olympics clean in the first place? And we all know that the enhanced games are coming. The enhanced games are going to allow whatever you would like to do, and they're coming in 2025. It's very likely that strongman is going to be a part of this. Now, are the Olympics clean is the first question. No, right? Nothing is inherently 100%. It's pretty good, and they are WADA compliant to the best of their ability. But before 1967, drugs were not formally banned from the Olympics. So these things have been happening, or had been happening very openly for quite a while. And it not only had been happening, but it happening by endorsement from the government. To go over some of the state-sponsored doping that has happened, first, the East German swim team went from 4 silvers and 1 bronze in 1972 to 10 out of 12 golds in the following Olympics. The state-sponsored doping was later found after the collapse of the Berlin Wall. Somebody came out, there was a whistleblower, and it came out to be true, but they did win. Now, China in the 1980s and 90s admitted to state-sponsored doping with hormone steroids and blood doping, admitted by a Chinese doctor who, again, was a whistleblower on the program. And then most recently and most famously, if you've seen Icarus, you know this one. In 2016, Russia had a whistleblower expose their state-sponsored doping program, where it's estimated at least 15 medal winners were a part of the program. 15 medal winners. Now, when we talk about state-sponsored doping, we're saying that the country itself is instituting policies, instituting procedures for the athletes to be able to dope, to not get caught, to hide the fact that they are doing it. And one thing that I find really interesting is it's not a 100% win rate for the people who are doping. And it's not because drugs don't work. So take from that what you will. But if we look, there are some crazy swings in catching the PED users in the Olympics. In the 2012 Summer Olympics, there were 132 positive tests. And in the 2020 Summer Olympics, there were only 9. Now, these types of swings, are we thinking it's because one year a whole bunch of athletes decided that they were going to start taking illegal substances, and the next handful of years later, they all decided that they weren't going to? I would assume that there would be some sort of steady line. Now, I'm going to get to my point here in a second, but to talk about some of the countries who have the most positive tests, Russia comes in at the top, who has had 51 medals stripped due to doping. Ukraine and Belarus have 11, Kazakhstan 9, USA has 8, and in total, 159 medals from the Olympics have been taken away due to doping. In terms of sport, athletics have had 53 stripped, pretty common in running, relatively common, I should say. And weightlifting has had 52, and those two are far and away the highest incidence of positive tests. Now, when I was in WADA-compliant sports, it's actually pretty crazy. Let's not assume that every one of these athletes is on some performance-enhancing drug, but when you're WADA-compliant, you not only have to avoid performance-enhancing drugs, but you have to avoid any masking agents, and you have to avoid masking agents of masking agents. For example, you cannot take Advil because it has a substance that is also a masking agent, on and on. So even though you might be grouped in the same category as someone who takes pure PEDs, well, you just took Advil, but it's the same thing because that might hide something else that you were doing. This gets to an important conversation of how do we make the competition fair in the first place? Well, what is fair? Fair is everyone on the same playing field. No one has an advantage for any reason other than some sort of genetic gift, their training protocol, their training regimen, and that's it. Now, WADA does their best, but unfortunately, especially with these state-sponsored doping programs, which realistically seem to happen every 15 years. So one in every 4 Olympics on average, there's been a state-sponsored doping program caught. How many are there that aren't caught? We don't really know. Now, the only real answer here is you allow everything. The reason that water can't get ahead and why this will always keep happening is because the incentive for a lot of these countries for national pride to win gold medals is greater than the incentive for WADA to catch them, meaning that there's inherently going to be more money, more funding, more motivation for people to try to find ways to skirt the protocols than for people to adhere to the protocols because WADA is putting huge funding behind catching them. There are also things that come up like hormones we can now find in the blood relatively easily. Peptides, though, depending on what you're taking, it could be in and out of your system in a day's time. You could also have people who are off-season, not competing, and then all of a sudden their PRs went way up through the roof. Then they come down slightly going into an Olympic season. Then you do wonder why. I don't think any athlete, I don't think any person would argue that there is a level of doping in the Olympics. It's just a matter of how do we solve that? Now, the only answer to me is, like I said, allow everything, allow whatever the athletes would like to do, and monitor health so we're not being complicit in people harming their health. Now, enhanced games is a very interesting concept, something that's been brought up on Joe Rogan, gained a lot of media attention. It's funded by Peter Thiel, the guy who funded PayPal. So they have some big dollars and big backing behind them. And they want to do exactly what I said, where you're allowed to take whatever you'd like. You're monitored by doctors and, allow transparency from the athletes so that they can get the safety, the substances, whatever it is that they need. Now, the details are yet to be released, but it's said that this is going to happen in 2025. So the enhanced game is going to have 5 different disciplines. One is athletics, one is aquatics, one is gymnastics, one is combat, and the other is strength. Now, 5 of those 5 are covered in the current form of the Olympics, but I know that strength is sort of open to new avenues. Weightlifting is very, very close to getting themselves stripped from the Olympics themselves because of the doping that's happened in the past. So I don't think weightlifters are going to take this up on a whole, meaning strength, who's involved? This is my pitch to say strongmen. Why not the enhanced games? In the other sports, they're looking to create the most exciting environments. They're looking to actually pay the athletes. I don't think many people realize Olympic athletes, the vast majority, live in poverty to live out their dreams. And that's sort of one of the most endearing things about the Olympics, but it's certainly not a way to treat athletes. The Olympics as a whole lose a whole bunch of money, and that's why a lot of countries don't even bother to bid on the Olympics anymore. It's a great tourism boost, but it doesn't seem to match up. There's a few instances where the Olympic villages and the Olympic venues are totally in shambles now. And I think something does need to be improved. Something does need to be changed about the Olympics. Now, this is where enhanced comes in. Athletes are offered money to go. They're offered money for world records, money to recognize the hard work that they've put in, and they're allowed to take what they'd like. Now, this could be a variety of things, from superfoods to anti-inflammatories to hormones to peptides to whatever you would like that you think is going to improve your performance. It's by no means mandated that athletes are going to have to do anything, but if you feel like, say, taking the Wolverine stack, you think that's going to help your recovery, therefore help your performance, well, you're allowed to go ahead and do that. And you'll also have the opportunity to be open and transparent. Now, I'd love to know your guys' thoughts. Is this something that you think is a step forward? Is this something you think is controversial and something that people aren't ready for? And I think it's sad because it's going to crush a lot of people's idea that the Olympics have always been 100% clean. And the fact is, there's so many instances of people skirting the rules who have got caught. And you do have to wonder how many people have skirted the rules and not got caught. It takes a little bit of the luster out of it for me personally. And I think this is a really interesting solution where people are able to go do their thing and get paid, get recognized, and be able to be open and transparent about how they got there. And the ultimate outcome, well, what if we discover that something like a performance-enhancing drug, what if taken at a very small dose actually is health forward? Now, this is something that a company I work with, Blogs, seems to take on board really, really well. If you want to check them out and get your blood work done, they work with hormones, with peptides, but through medical doctors who are going to prescribe only what you need to be able to improve your health. Check out that link in the description. Now, I would love your guys' thoughts. Do you think this is something that could help people as a whole? Do you think it helps sporting as a whole? Do you want to see no holds barred, the strongest, the fastest, the fittest people in the world? Or do you prefer to see what the body can do without any sort of help? Let me know in the comments. As per usual, lift heavy, be kind. Leave a moose dropping if nothing else, or just a period in the comment section to help the algorithm. Go ahead, subscribe to the channel, and we'll catch you in the next video.